actually keep the money flowing into and invested into economic things that create economic substance, which create actually jobs, which actually create more tax revenue. The government can't force us to save for retirement. They also can't force us to develop real estate or do 1031 exchanges or deferred sales trust, but they can do tax incentives through the tax code to encourage us to do certain things, certain behaviors that will encourage us to invest naturally over time and save naturally over time. And so that's the essence of the deferred sales trust. Is an installment sale that has a ton of flexibility, including optimal timing. And so, Pierce, what is optimal timing, and how might someone practice that if they're looking at the deferred sales trust for the first time?
Yeah, so the optimal timing is the ability to maneuver given the economic landscape and to flow in and out of assets when it makes sense, not based upon the time constraints that are provided by the 1031. So it gives you ability to buy low and sell high, which, as our parents taught us, is the way to create wealth. So
Perfectly said. You want the opportunity to buy low, as opposed to the 1031 exchange, which we believe the deferred sales trust was created for times like this. What is this? Well, interest rates have jumped quite a bit here in the last 12 months. So you're seeing such a huge increase in interest rates, and yet cap rates haven't necessarily shifted as much. There's kind of a reverse arbitrage to lower interest, which means you really have to see a lot of rent growth. Well, guess what? Rent growth is not going as fast as it used to. So we have some headwinds, especially if you're a multifamily investor, where you're seeing rents still going up some, but not at the pace that it used to. But you're seeing this huge increase in interest rate, right? And yet cap rates haven't necessarily turned around. So if you're in a 1030 exchange, low probability of seeing. And a lot of things have to go right. And the one thing that's constant right now is interest rates. Somewhere between 5.5% to 6% if you're borrowing on multifamily properties. You're also seeing higher down payments, which is typically lower on your equity. In other words, inflation is taking place here, right? Where you've seen values jump, now you see interest rates jump, and you're seeing rents that aren't going as fast as they used to be going. And so you have to be cautious not to overpay for a property right now. And so we're working with a lot of California owners right now who are selling highly appreciated assets. And the part of what we love the deferred sales trust is you don't have to do a 45-day 180 or 80-day close with that asset 31 exchange. In fact, you can sell, pay off your debt, defer your tax, and you can invest into passive real estate deals or active deals when the time makes sense. A lot of our clients are liking T-bills right now because they're getting 4 to 5%, and it's the U.S. government. It's about as safe as they can get for investing, and that's a powerful way for you to create and preserve your wealth. So optimal timing is so important. Pierce, let's move to the second part of it, which would be the ability to be an entrepreneur. Because someone might be listening to this and say, "Well, that's great, Brett and Pierce, but I'm actually very entrepreneurial. I like to run my own deals. I like to build real estate, build businesses." Talk about the entrepreneur
ability to what I love about it is it's like kind agnostic. So in conjunction with the optimal timing, right? It's you can and can flow out of. So ability to actually go in and out of different entrepreneurial ventures or start your own business, start your own developments, use the funds to, even do VC or whatever, right? It gives you the ability and the flexibility to maneuver throughout the asset classes as well. So you can start your own business again, you can go back into real estate again, and all of these, right, with these time constraints, without these lifetime constraints.
Perfect. Very well said. I want to maybe talk about how clients, how they might, if they're looking at structuring the promissory note, how they might look at that for the first time. If you are with us, Micah, how are you?
I am well. How are you? So right now, it really should just kind of person is a little different, a need where and and get some of those funds coming your way initially. There's other people that say, I'm just going to keep this and use this to build my wealth, and so they don't want to take any sort of distribution or any promissory note or anything right now, and they schedule that, and they can say, okay, in the future down the road, I will do that later. And it's actually kind of a good thing to make sure that that happens, because if you don't schedule the payments, the IRS likes to see that you're eventually going to receive your funds, because then they get their portion as you get taxed on it. So it really is important that they set up their, I mean, it could be every quarter, it could be every month. It's just very flexible as far as how they get it.
Perfect. Yeah, well said. Yeah, and so the promissory note is set up for every trust, and it's based upon the net proceeds that go into the trust. And so, what's unique about the trust is which is perfect. Hey, if you need up front, say $3 million, scheduled immediately at closing, and let's say instead of having a $3 million promissory note, now you have a 2.5, and so it's a scheduled payment to pay you out over time. Some like to delay it, typically about 2 years. But in the meantime, it can accrue, build up in there. So it's a plane. You're getting it off the runway, and you're getting it up and moving by investing it and getting a return on your investment, and then letting the accrual of the promissory note payment build up on there, and then you can start taking payments. And so some clients, so the answer is it all depends. Some clients want it immediately. Some clients want it over time. Some clients want interest-only payments. Some want partial interest payments. Some want interest and principal. And so the extent that you receive, you'll pay capital gains tax. The extent you're receiving interest payments, it's 1099 ordinary income tax. And so this is all important to work with like a certified financial planner and with your tax professional and with our team to really strategize the tax flow as well as the cash flow. And also the flexibility of it. So Pierce, talk about how flexible it is if somebody probably or might need or something changes life. How does the promissory note, how can we amend that, and how does that work for flexibility if things change for them?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, Micah mentioned, right, and if you guys haven't caught on to this yet, right, the power of the deferred sales trust, what it provides you is it provides you flexibility, and it provides you with the ability to take advantage of situations that arise because it's so flexible, right? With the timing, with everything. So the note can be amended relatively inexpensively to fit whatever pops up relatively easily. And so we don't want to do it, every single day or once a month, but if you need to amend it, a few times a year or something pops up, right? God forbid, there's a catastrophic event in the family, or you guys just decide you want to travel around the world. There's a happy thing going on, right? You want to go buy private, whatever the case is. Like, it's relatively easy to change the note, to restructure it, to refinance it, and move on.
Perfect. Yep. So that's good. So it's a flexible way to slowly pay tax. Another way to think about it is a delayed tax trust. Sort of like back to the IRA scenario. What's the IRA doing? You're delaying the tax, you're earning the tax, and you're letting the amount of wealth grow by being invested in pre-tax dollars versus post-tax. And so it's sort of like an IRA exit plan for your investment. Although not a retirement plan, there's no minimum required distributions, and you can also joint venture partner with the trust as an entrepreneur to do business ventures in which you become an owner again of an LLC, which we partner the trust with, and that's a unique way to build even more wealth versus just deferring the tax. And so those are some of the things there. I am going to open it up for some questions. Maybe.
Can I quick comment?
Go ahead, Michael.
So you mentioned, so I'm going to say that the order of things really matters, because if you think about it, if you take a loan and you pay your payments, and let's say they only go toward the interest on the back end, right? You will never pay down that principal, which is causing that interest to build. Whereas the order, if you pay, hey, I'm going to pay on the principal, then that interest will decrease over time as well, right? So let's think about like the order here. Normally you have an asset and you sell it, you get the funds, and then you're taxed, and then you can invest, right? So you have a sell, you get taxed, and you invest normally. This one, we're kind of changing those last two areas around, and we say, okay, you're still going to sell it, but now we're going to invest it, and then you'll get taxed. And the power behind that is that you have more of a lump sum that you get to put in initially as far as your investment goes. And that is super powerful.
Love that. And I'll do a little add to that too. You sell it, you get to invest it, and then when it repays you, you get taxed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, say, well, how long can I wait for the repayment? Like typically we like to say some people delay it for about 2 years, kind of the range there. But it's that ability to get compounding time value of money, interest accruing and building. But Mike is exactly right. And even another little nuance there too. Someone might say, well, is it, if it's growing inside of the trust, is it getting taxed? No, it's typically operating at a loss, the way that we structure the promissory notes and the way that it's reported on the tax return for the promissory notes. It's a very efficient, elegant way where the trust is typically operating at a neutral state, meaning it doesn't have enough income to make enough tax, because it's able to expense the accrual of the interest that the promissory note has on its tax return. And so it's this very elegant, efficient tax machine, if you will, product, service, that if properly structured and with the team in place to strategize, kind of like, moving the pieces when they should be moved in a strategy for you, that can be a great way to build wealth. Guess what? Are going up, income taxes are going up, capital gains tax rates seem to be going up. Lots of challenges. So Micah, you're spot on that. I love the way you put that. Maybe we'll do like a little graph next week to show that, because I think visually that will look really good. Any other thoughts on that, Micah?
Not on that per se, but I did have another thought that kind of came up. Is I like how you said that it kind of forces you into a situation where you have to make a choice, you have to do something, because hey, you're selling an asset, whatever it is, a business, a house, a real estate, whatever it is. But then you have this problem. Whenever you do something, it has another effect on something else. And the neat thing is that we can help you with this problem, but it'll help benefit you in the end, right? Like I was on a webinar not too long ago, and they were talking about how it's never a good time to invest. It's never a good time, because it's too high. The market's too high. It's going to crash. Oh, now it crashed. Now it's at the bottom, and now it's not right because it might go down farther, right? But like historically over time, it will be better for you to be invested because of just appreciation of all things in the market. And I'm not saying like it has to be in the market. Like the market is nice that it can be there and it can be holding and waiting for that opportune next business deal, the next business, the next company, the next real estate property, and it's yours. You can do it and kind of hit the trigger whenever it makes sense.
You nailed it. Yeah. And it's the power of whatever that next big domino is for you, right? Talk about the power of one more day, or the power of one more, what the DST can unlock for you, what freedom it can unlock for you. What is that thing? And that thing you may not know. Like I know some of our clients, like, look, I'm getting an earnout. So I'm selling my business. More years. Let's delay the payment while I still have the income from the business that I'm selling as one of their employees. And then in a couple of years, when I exit fully, I'm essentially unemployed at that point. Let's turn on the trust income. And so we can time that for that flexibility. And then guess what? As an entrepreneur, you're probably going to start something else. Now, would you start right away? No, you might wait a year or two, or whenever the opportunity comes up, when the inspiration comes up, when the timing is right for you and your family. And then guess what? You might delay some of the trust payments at that point, or shift that payment a little bit. And so this is the power of having the flexibility with the deferred sales trust to do the things that you want to do. And this includes partnership separations too, right? So partners are going separate ways. The DST can work for each partner. Each partner can have their own DST. We did a $13 million exit in San Diego where there was 4 partners. One wanted to pay his tax. He paid it. The other 3 wanted to do the deferred sales trust. They each did a deferred sales trust. We have folks that are looking for ways to do a partial 1031 exchange. So the power of saying, oh, okay, I sold a $10 million asset and I found a perfect $6 million property, but what about the extra $4 million left over? Well, instead of, not, having boot on that $4 million, you can move that into the deferred sales trust. We call that a bifractured 1031 exchange. We even do that with Delaware statutory trust, where people have a large mortgage over basis challenge. And so we're using the deferred sales trust for the majority of the equity. And then the other portion can go into the Delaware statutory trust to solve that problem. And so everyone who's listening, or everyone who has a unique circumstance, you're going to want to make sure you have something that's flexible and a team in place. And that's why we're here. And if you want to learn more, you can go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. It's capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. You can also connect with Micah, and she's with Jake Miller at strategictaxsolutions.com. We work hand in hand to help people who are looking to exit. So that being said, Pierce, thoughts, questions? I'll pass it back over to you. Me and Mike have been talking a little bit. So what are you thinking?
So I have 2 thoughts. Going back to what Micah said, right? The order of things. And then how you touched on it a little bit with the trust is a very elegant, tax solution. And what I love even more is that, you can take ordinary income, but if you go back into real estate, right, you get a brand new depreciation schedule. And so you can use that depreciation, right, to offset income. And so that is an even more added effect, more power, right? Because now you can get a lot of these interest payments, and you can offset a lot of those with depreciation should you go back to real estate.
Let me get a little caveat there. Little caveat there, right? So correct.
80%.
It depends on the income, right? So it's 80% of a new depreciation schedule. But so when income can be kind of a broad term. So there's passive income, there's active income, right? And there's also real estate professional status. Check with your CPA. So all of these are unique. There's definitely some nuances, right? In fact, a couple of weeks ago, we talked about the reasons not to use a DST. You can go back and check that out on Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast or YouTube channel by just going to YouTube and searching Capital Gains Tax Solutions. So not it does, if you do a cost seg offset certain income, check with your CPA and with that. But keep going, Pierce. I just wanted to make sure people caught that before we kept going.
Well, okay, so and that ties right into the next point, right? Which was this is so because it's so flexible, because it has so many different little nuances, it's vital that you have a team that knows what they're doing, look at the entire circumstance, right? The whole deal, everything, the goals, right? What you're trying to accomplish, why you're trying to accomplish it, right? What you want to invest in, your risk tolerance, all of these different things, right, are nuances, right? How your deal is structured, what you're going to classify as, as what other incomes you have, all these things, right? And so it's super vital that you have that team in place that can walk you through, okay, hey, now we got this trust, right? What's the best way to customize it to your unique situation? And so going back to the timing of things, right? It's important to get in early and get in early with a team who can really help you unpack and look at your entire situation to give you the best full-on, advice. Because there's a lot of, I think, misinformation out there on certain things, what you can and can't do. And it's just super powerful and super important to have the right team in place early so that you're not in this rushing situation.
Exactly. And that's also why we work on a conditional basis, 100% conditional. So if you're listening to this, we're happy to talk with you. Here's the key, though. You got to have $1 million net proceeds. $1 million gain is our minimum. Unless you have 2 assets at about $500,000 each, then you can qualify. But $1 million net proceeds, $1 million gain, and you can apply for a no-cost consultation by going to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. Micah, let's talk about timing, though, right? So, Micah, if people are saying, hey, I want to look at the deferred sales trust, it sounds like it might be a good fit for me. I want to explore it more, but when does all this need to be set up, and how does that work for the timing, Micah?
So really, as long as we're getting in before you're ready to sign, right? I mean, we've done some that are just days. It's not the way that we'd like to go because all of our blood pressure is going to go up and we might not live as long as we want to. But, I mean, give us a few months before the close. Let us get in front of the people that are going to be making those decisions and make sure that the lingo in the contract that you're about to sign is set up in such a way that it allows for you to have that option. Because really that's where it comes down to. If it's not in a lingo in the contract you're going to sign, then you can't proceed. And
Yep.
it's fine because we, like you said, we're working on a conditional basis. If you work with it, if you do it, then great. If you don't and you say, you know what, I want to use every penny of this sale that I'm gonna get it, that's awesome. Great.
Yep.
That's fine.
So Micah, that was ideal, right? So let me give you practical, because a lot of people you're listening to go, oh my gosh, I only have 21 days to close, I only have 10 days to close. I'm in my 1031 and like, is it too late? So let me give you what Micah just said was ideal. That's spot on. Ideally, you're talking to this well in advance, before you're signing a listing agreement, before you sign the APA, before you're with your M&A attorney. That's ideal, right? Because part of what Michael also confirmed, said as well, we work on a conditional engagement agreement. So you don't have to, just because you work with us or signing up with us to get going, you don't owe anything unless your deal actually closes and you actually want to use the trust at the end of the closing. So, but what if you said, Brett, I already signed the listing agreement, or I'm already under contract, or I've already signed the LOI, or the buyer's already, removed some contingencies. What is kind of the date? Well, the drop dead date for us, it would be the buyer has removed all contingencies, right? All contingencies. So that's every single one. There's nothing remaining. There's a thing called the binding commitment test, which basically states that the buyer can compel the seller to transact, which means that they've done everything they said they were going to do in the contract. They have removed all the contingencies and they performed to everything the contract said for them to perform to. And now they're saying, here's the cash, I'm ready to sell. The seller can't just say, I'm out, right? I don't want to sell now. They will be bound to sell. And that's when it's too late to use the deferred sales trust, unless, and stay on here for a second, you're using an investment real estate property. And so you call this, you're listening to this, you say, Brett, I've only got, 10 days before they remove contingencies, or even 1 day or 2 days. What can we do? We can put some option language, and that option language can give you the option or the right to use a deferred sales trust at no additional cost to the buyer. It's some of the general language, but I think it's specific to your deal, and that gives you the option. Now, we even better to actually form the trust, and by forming the trust, and then putting that exact name of that trust. These trusts are single entity business trusts that only do business with you, and it has its own EIN. And that's also important for the dates in which everything was set up. And so the ideal is to get with us early. So yeah, like Micah said, our stress and everything else is very low. We're not rushed. Number 2 would be if you're selling investment property. Investment property, if you have sent the funds to a qualified intermediary, or you're going to. So we have some people call us and go, well, Brett, I wasn't planning on doing a 1031. I've only got like 3 days to close. Can we still do it? And I say, you know what? Let's just all slow this down. Let's send it to a qualified intermediary, which is going to buy us all more time to get to know one another, to make sure the deferred sales trust is a great fit for you. It does cost us 45 days of your money going to the qualified intermediary, about $1,500 with the QI company that we work with. Make sure you're working with our QI company. That is our strategic alliance, because they actually know, like, and trust us and the deferred sales trust process. So get with us there. But that being said, on day 46, essentially, we can move into the deferred sales trust. The last thing would be, if you're actually looking to 1031 for a deal, great, go for it. We'll be that backup plan in case it fails as well. But you need to work with us to make sure we're timing and strategizing, because this is like chess. We're moving different pieces in different places. Michael, you want to add or subtract any of that?
I had a different thought, but I do want to share this. So one of my dad's favorite sayings was, been there, done that. And really that's what you kind of get here. You get people are scared of the unknown. They don't know how, okay, I've got this kind of going on. That's just kind of human nature. We're going to be scared of things that we're not comfortable with, things that we haven't done before. And this is really where this kind of comes into play, because I mean, A lot of times people have been working their business or doing their rental properties for a number of years, and that's what they know. And so if you can team up with some people or a group or a team, you know, that has been there, they've done that, they're familiar with it, they can hold your hand, they can say, hey, here's the next step. Let's just jump on a call. Let's talk about it, right? Sign this next form that gives you the option to exercise that if you choose to proceed. You know, it's baby steps. It's nothing big.
Exactly. So that's great. I want to open it up to anyone in the audience today. Is it? I think it's Mr. Phillips, perhaps. Say hello. And I see Maria's familiar. I see Jessica's familiar. Of course, I was Pierce and Micah. We were just talking. So, Mr. Phillips, if you want to say hello, no worries. If not, you can put in the question in the chat, or you can also unmute yourself, say hello, and ask any questions of myself, Micah, or Pierce. We're happy to talk with you. And also, no worries if not. That's all I got for today, everybody. Pierce York, if people want to find you, where can they find you?
You guys can find me at kingdomluxuryrealty.com and the Living in Newport Beach, California YouTube channel.
Awesome. Micah, if you want to find you, where can they find you?
Yeah, go ahead and visit the website, strategictaxsolutions.com. Click on the link to meet with Jake, who's not with us right now, but yeah.
He'll be back next week, probably, Lord willing. Great, Micah. And if people want to connect with me, go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. You can also check out the new book, Building a Capital Gains Tax Exit Plan. It's the proven playbook that we like to call to help you exit any asset of any kind for capital gains tax, or help your clients do the same. So we work with CPAs, financial advisors, business brokers, real estate agents, professionals, commercial real estate brokers, syndicators. So check out that book. It's an amazing book. We do have the Jake Miller in the book, who you just heard about, and he'll be back next week. And I have a few chapters, and then we have the Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank in the book. Really cool, exciting stuff. So we just hit number one bestseller. So you can check this out on Amazon. You can also go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com as well to learn more about that. Thanks everyone for watching. We'll promise to do better next time, and make a great weekend. Bye now.
Bye now.
Recording stopped.